Hey everyone, I'm going to show you one of my favorite stretches today for Chondromalacia Patella of the knee. Hey, I'm Sebastian at Performance Place Sports Care, part of locally world famous chiropractors in Costa Mesa, California. Now, before we start with this video, I want to make sure that you guys are actually on the right video for the problem that you're looking for. Chondromalacia Patella of the knee. We're not going to talk about what it is, but general location is the knee cap right here. It's not on it, it's not to the side of it, it's not below it, it's not above it. It's actually underneath it. Okay, it feels like it's deep underneath the actual bone. A lot of times it hurts to bend it more, and it hurts to, like if I were to actually stand up on it like this, like usually it doesn't feel too good. A lot of times people, like in endurance sports and runners, will start to develop problems like this that come and go over the years, and at some point they might get frustrated with it, leaving you on a video like this. Now, there's a lot of exercises that we've covered on the Performance Place channel, and we have a whole series on Chondromalacia Patella, so make sure you do watch those as well. There'll be a link in the corner. Now, for Chondromalacia Patella, one of my favorite stretches is not necessarily of the knee itself, although ones of the knee can help slightly. One good one is knee extension. We have in another video. I like to actually make the effort go elsewhere and actually improve function in an adjacent location. So we have something called toe threading that we like to do here. Toe threading is pretty simple. Toe threading actually helps out mobility and stability of the foot. And if I was dealing with Chondromalacia Patella of this knee, it's not uncommon to actually have issues into the ankle or into the foot. There are assessments that we can do to see if this area is actually working well, but when we find that it's not working well, one of the easiest things to do is provide a little bit of mobility and improve function here, so we take workload away from the knee. Okay, I'll show you in the very end what I mean by that, because it's a little bit foreign concept to some of you, but I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar how these are in a relationship. So toe threading is pretty simple. I like to take this hand here and put it on top. Now, if you haven't touched your feet in a while, now is a good time to get acquainted with it. You're going to put web onto your foot. And so I'm going to use all of my fingers to get the webs inside the webs of the foot. And I'm going to warn you right now, this does not feel good to most people the first time. You can see I'm not screaming about it, but I don't really like this too much either. I'm trying to get web on web, and as you can see right here, I'm holding hands with my foot. It's like I was on my first date in middle school or high school. And so you're going to slide those babies in, and at this point, you don't necessarily need to take them out. It'll be uncomfortable, but the hardest thing is just getting them in. So now you take this, and I'm going to spin myself around just so you can see a reference point of where I'm grabbing. We're going to grab two locations with each cycle, okay? The first one's going to be at the crook of the foot right here. So thumb around top, hand around bottom, and then we're almost like we're in a car and we're going like this with our hand outside the window. We're going to do that with our foot. It's like our foot is trying to do the same thing. So you hold here, you compress them together, and you do a little bit of a long, wide wag of about 10. After that, you're going to try to wring out the towel of your foot by opposing directions. I'm wringing out the towel. Again, this doesn't feel good to most people, but at the end, they feel like they have a brand new foot, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, my knee pain actually went away. It's crazy. This especially works more for people who have had Chondromalacia Patella or knee pain for a long time. This usually won't work with the fresh cases that have swelling and stuff like that associated to it. Now, the next round that we do, we're going to take the crook of the bottom, the heel of the foot, which is here. Same thing, we're going to compress them together, and I'm going to stick my foot outside the window and then make those waves like we talked about. Usually 10 is enough. And then we're going to grab here again, and we're going to wring out the foot just as so. Now, normally people stand up and they're like, wow, I feel like my foot is like a new foot. Yeah, that's what we want. We want to make sure this whole area is working well, because here's the relationship that I talked about earlier. Now, let's just say I have an arch that doesn't work well. I don't want to say it's fallen arched, because this happens to people who actually have arches too, but they kind of have this little collapse that happens here. And I'm going to be super dramatic with it just so you can see on camera. Now, if you look at where my knee's at in relationship to my shoulder, when my ankle dives in or my arch dives in, look what happens to my knee. it starts to dive itself in a little bit. Now what this does onto the kneecap is it changes the location of the contact point. Now I'm going to grab actually this yoga block. This one's actually this one's harder to tell. What actually happens in chondromalacia patella is people used to think that actually the VMO, the vastus medialis obliquus muscle, was actually weak, and the side quad muscles were too strong. And they thought, well, this muscle's too weak, and it's pulling, these ones are pulling the kneecap to the side, creating abnormal tracking. But actually what we found through a couple, through an MRI study, it was at Powers in 2010, was they actually found that under dynamic MRI, they found out actually the kneecap wasn't moving, but the femur was moving underneath it. So there's this gully here, and they thought the patella moved to the side and hit the side of the gully. Actually what happened was the gully moves, the gully moves closer to the kneecap, and the kneecap doesn't move. It doesn't do this, it does this, okay? And the reason why this happens again is that if you look at this, it's because the collapse happens. So the foot, the hip, the ankle are all part of this puzzle of chondromalacia patella for most people, all right? This is generally an overuse condition. It's not, I slipped and fell and I have chondromalacia patella. It is something that develops over time, and your movement habits are what typically create it. So let us assess you to figure out if any of this is part of it. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised about how much better you'll feel when you do an offloading protocol and you look elsewhere other than just at the knee. If you guys are looking for help, we do have virtual and in-person options. We are in Costa Mesa, California, but we've seen people for this condition virtually, and it's gone pretty well. What happens is we develop a customized program of stretches and exercises to do via forming an assessment first. We don't guess about what things to do. We assess to see if they're merited. There's no reason to give you excessive things to do if there's no reason for it. So usually we build up a program to make it so you actually have, if you have deficits of something, we'll improve on what your deficit is. So if you guys are looking for help, reach out to us. Contact is in the link description for the video. We'll see you next time.